welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you for joining me again today. On today's episode, Topaz Studio 2, they just launched a new update, kind of interesting. So things changed in it a little bit. Today we're looking at the Edge filter. This is a really hard filter to wrap your head around, and I've been dreading making this video, but I've been working on this tutorial, and hopefully I'm going to be able to show you a clear and concise way of using it, and so you can understand it. We're going to get a little technical at first because I think it's going to help you understand what's happening with the filter, and then we're going to go to a real world example so we can see how we can use it artistically in our images. So let's get started and wish me luck. And away we go, the Edge filter, starting out in Photoshop, but you could start out as a standalone plugin or launch it from Lightroom, but I'm just doing it in Photoshop because I have another image to show you and it's easier for me this way. So we're going to come up to filter and just to show you, I always like to duplicate my background layer. It doesn't really matter in this image because this is just for the technical part of the tutorial. But let's come up here to filter and come down to Topaz Studio and click on Topaz Studio 2, and we'll launch Topaz Studio 2. Now the interface has changed a little bit. It's pretty similar. Let's come up here to add filter. Let me go over that real quick first. I don't want this video going too long, but I'll just show you real quick here. You'll notice down here where it says plugin, you can see your plugins down here. So far we have 3 that we can use. Let's come and click on edges. Now here's what's changed on the interface here. Remember, before we had opacity, which we still do. We have the blend modes here, and we don't see our presets here anymore. Now they're down here at the bottom, presets. And if you click on this, you'll see your presets here, and we'll also see a little window showing us how they'll affect our image. Okay, so to get back to the adjustments, you have to click in this preset section here, and that gets rid of that for now. Okay, so just wanted to point that out to you. And of course, you can still save a preset with this icon here. Bear with me here because we're going to take this step by step so you can understand how this works. Now, you see I have a gray background here, and I have 5 blocks on the screen, a black, white, red, green, and blue block on the screen, because this filter is going to interact differently with all these different blocks, and I want you to see that here. We're going to start out with the edge type. Now if we click this drop down, we see we have 4 edge types. We have a color edge, a monochrome, a color line, and a monochrome line. All right, we're going to start out with the color edge. We have 2 edge tones. We have a dark edge tone, and notice here when the dark is clicked here, we're in the multiply blend mode. When I click on the light, we're in a screen blend mode, so bear that in mind. So let's start out with the dark. We're going to go through all these different types here, but we're going to start out with dark, and then we're going to go through them again in light so you can see the difference. Okay, we are on the color edge here, so let's take the edge strength and drag it the whole way up to the right, and watch these blocks up in here. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge thickness. I'm bypassing these 3 sliders for a second. You'll see why. So now I'm going to take the edge thickness and bump it up to the right. And see what's happening here. The white block is getting a black line around it. The black block is getting a black line around it. You can't see it, but let me click on the screen. See its size change. So you can definitely tell a black line is going around it. The green block here in the middle is getting a red line around it. The blue block is getting more of a magenta pinkish line around it. And the red block is getting like a green line around it, or edge around it, I should say. Now, the edge thickness, if I move this to the right, the edge gets thicker. If I move it to the left, it gets thinner. So remember that. That's going to help when you really want to use this in the real world. Now, simplify edge is really cool. Take it to the right, and the edge will start to become simplified. So see, let's just mainly take a look at the white block here. Can you see the edge becoming deteriorated here a little bit? So we're starting to simplify that edge, taking some detail out of it. Now the suppress weak edges, when I move it to the right, it'll start to take away weaker edges. So let me move it to the right. See that? Move it to the left, they come back in. Now the suppress small edges, any edge that's very small, it will start to remove it when I move this to the right. Okay, if I move it to the left, they'll come back in. So that's what that does. All right, and then the last thing we have edge resolution. If we move this to the left, the edge will start to become more blurred out and wider. Like, see that? See how it's starting to get all crazy and weird? So bear that in your mind. You're going to use this later on, but it's for like fine-tuning adjustments, but mainly, for the most part, I think you'll pretty much keep it up full at 100%. Think of these simplify edges and suppress weak edges and suppress small edges is more fine-tuning adjustments. Okay, so let's come back up and reset edges here. Moving on to the next edge. Let's click the edge type, go to Monochrome Edge. Let's do the same thing. Move the strength up and watch the blocks. I'll take the whole way up. Now we'll take the edge thickness and start to move it up. All right, and you notice here we're still in dark, so we've added black around the white. We've added black to the black. You can't see it, but let me click here, before and after, so you can see it did. The green block gets added black, but notice something here, and this is interesting. I don't know why this is, but the blue block gets no black line, nor does the red, but the green does. Don't really understand why, but just pointing that out. So let's take the simplify edge, move it to the right. We start to eat away at the edges. Take the suppress weak edges, move it to the right. We'll take the weaker edges away, move it to the left. We'll bring the weaker edges back. Again, these are fine-tuning adjustments, and suppress small edges. Move it to the right, the smaller edges will go away. Move it to the left, they'll start to come back. We've already adjusted the edge thickness, and now let's take the edge resolution, and again, move it to the left. The edge starts to get kind of blurred and deteriorated, okay? So, move that back up to 1. On to the next edge, but first let's reset. Okay, so let's go to the next edge, which is the color line. Take the edge strength up to the right. Let's take it the whole way up. Watch the blocks. Let's take the edge thickness, move it up to the right. And now you'll see we're getting looks like a black line around the white. Looks like a black line around the black. Let me click the screen so you can see the before and after. Yeah, you can see the black is changing. So a black line is going around the black. Looks like a darker black line going around the green. A darker black line going around the red, and like a magenta type line going around the blue. Simplify the edge, move it to the right. The edge starts to become simplified. Okay. Suppress weak edges, move it to the right. We start to remove weaker edges, move it to the left, they come back. Suppress small edges, move it to the right. I know I'm being redundant here, but I want you to see how this works. And then edge thickness we've adjusted, and again the edge resolution. Okay, you can see what's happening there. All right, so let's come to the monochrome line, click that, and before I do that, let's reset the edges. Very important so we can see what's happening. So let's go back to the monochrome line. This is the last one in the dark section. Let's move our edge strength to the right, move our edge thickness to the right, thickening that up. Now we're in a monochrome line, and you can see we're adding black to the white, black to the black, black to the green, and this time black is going on the blue, so that's interesting. Now let's go ahead and simplify the edge, move this to the right, simplify edge slider, the edge starts to deteriorate, and suppress the weak edges, move it to the right, weak edges will drop off, move it to the left, they'll come back. Take the suppressed small edges, and any small edge, move it to the right, will start to go away. Move it to the left, they'll start to come back. And of course, the edge resolution will start to blur out those edges and do kind of weird and crazy things. All right, so let's go ahead and reset again. Now, we've looked at the dark, we only have to look at the light. So we're going to come over here to light. And notice when I click the light, the screen blend mode comes up. So now we move from multiply blend mode to screen blend mode. And anytime you're in light, that'll be on screen blend mode. Okay, so let's take the edge strength, and we're on color edge starting out. Take the edge strength the whole way up to the right. Let's take our edge thickness up and see how we're interacting with our blocks here. Okay, so we're adding, looks like we're adding white to the white block. We're adding white to the black block. And if I click on the screen, you can see the white block is getting fatter. So it's definitely getting white. The green is getting, looks like it's getting a lighter green color to the edge. It appears the blue is getting like a cyan color, and the red is getting like a magenta pink type color around it. Okay, so there's before and after. So let's take the simplify edge, move it to the right, and we'll start to eat away at our edges. And just watch the edges. And now we're going to use the suppress weak edges. Move it to the right. Weak edges will start to drop away. When you move it to the right, they'll come back when you move it to the left. Suppress small edges. We'll take any small edges, move it to the right, they'll start to disappear. Move it to the left, they'll come back. Okay, so you can see that. We don't see a whole lot happening on this particular one, but it is. And these are, again, fine-tuning adjustments. And let's take the edge resolution, move it to the left, and everything starts to deteriorate. Okay, so I'm going to reset that back to 1. So let's come up here and reset our edges. Let's go to the next edge, which is the monochrome edge. Again, we want to be in the light mode, so I got to remember each time to click light. Very important. Okay, I'm going to move the edge strength to the right, take it the whole way up. Let's take our edge thickness up and watch the blocks. All right, so let's observe these blocks. So we've added, we're on monochrome now. We've added white to white. We've added white to black. We've added white to green. And I don't see much happening on the blue and the red. Okay, so let's take our simplify edge. And again, excuse the redundancy, but I want you to see it. We're starting to eat away at the edges. Suppress weak edges. We'll get rid of weak edges when we move it to the right, bring them back to the left. And just keep watching those blocks. And suppress small edges. Any small edges will start to disappear when we move it to the right, move it to the left, bring them back. So again, fine tuning and edge resolution. The edges start to deteriorate. All right, so let's come and reset our edges again. That was monochrome edge. So now we're going to color line. Let's go back to light edge tone. Let's move our edge strength the whole way to the right so we can see what's going on. Take our edge thickness and start to bump it up and see how we're interacting. Now we're on color line. So we've added white to black, we've added white to white, we've added, looks like white to red, white to green, and cyan to blue. Just, these are the characteristics. I don't know why this happens, but I did not design this. So, but this is what's happening. I want you to see it. And let's take the take the simplify edge, start to move it to the right, and we'll start to eat away at our edge. Take the suppress weak edges up, and we'll get rid of some of the weaker edges. As we move that to the right, to the left will come back. Suppress small edges, we'll start to take away small edges from the image. Okay, and of course the edge resolution will start to deteriorate those edges, lose resolution. All right. So let's come back up. We have one more to go here, I believe. So we're on color line. Yes, we have to go to the monochrome line. And we'll come up and reset our edges again. And now we're going to change this to the monochrome line. And now we're going to click the edge tone to light. One last time. We're almost through this. Move the edge strength to the right. Move the edge thickness to the right to thicken that up a bit. Okay, and let's see how it's interacting. So we're on monochrome lines. We're getting white to white, white on black, we're getting white on green, and white on blue. This is just the way it's interacting. And of course, the simplify edge will start to eat away at the edge and simplify it. Suppress weak edges will take away weak edges to the right, bring them back to the left. And suppress small edges will remove small edges to the right and bring them back as you move it to the left. And of course, the edge resolution will start to deteriorate the resolution. Okay, and you can see how it's interacting. So let's go ahead and hit reset. Okay, we got through the technical part. Now to a real image, one that we want to add some edges to. So let's come up to the left-hand upper side of the interface here and click Cancel. Brings us back into Photoshop. Let me click on my second image of this nice little sea turtle here. And I've duplicated the background layer so we can work non-destructively. Let's come up here to Filter and come down to Topaz Studio and come to Topaz Studio 2. Entering Topaz Studio 2. Let's come up to Add Filter. I always like to start out with AI Clear just to get rid of some noise and sharpen it up a bit. Secondly, I want to add an abstraction filter. And there's a reason I'm adding this filter, and I'll explain. When Topaz originally came out with Simplify 4, and I love that filter, they brought it in here to Topaz Studio 2 as the abstraction filter, but it had other components to it, and it did have a edges component to it, and that is what we're looking at today, the edges component. So it works really well with abstraction simplified images, and it also works well in other images too to do different things. But today I want to keep this tutorial not too long, so I'm just going to show it to you how cool it works on an abstraction filter. All right, so let's come to the simplify size, and let's just bump that up a little bit and simplify our little turtle just a little bit, maybe right around there. Looks pretty good. And so now we're going to come up and click Add Filter and come to the Edges filter. On the technical portion of this tutorial, I already showed you how it works on all the different edges. On this particular image, we're only going to look at the monochrome edge, and we're going to see it in both the dark and the light modes, okay, for edge tones. So let's get started. So we're going to go to Monochrome Edge. And let's take the edge strength and let's just start bumping it up to the right, adding some edge to the image. And already you can see we're done. It looks really cool, but that does look really good. And we could be done here, but maybe right around here. And let's go to our edge thickness down here and see what happens if we thicken up this edge a little bit. And you got to watch this, because if you go too quick, it's going to go weird like that. So I don't usually use the edge thickness too much. I'm just going to let it come up just a little bit right there, like 0.13. Now let's go to the Simplify Edge. And remember, the Simplify Edge, suppress weak edges, and suppress small edges are really good for fine-tuning it. All right, so let's take Simplify Edge and let's just move it to the right a little bit, and it's going to start dropping out some of the edges because it's going to simplify them. So get a look that you think looks pretty good. I wasn't grabbing my slider there for a second. So I'm thinking maybe right around in there. Now let's play with the suppress weak edges. Okay, and just see what looks pleasing to your eye, maybe right there. Now let's play with the suppress small edges. And just get it looking just about the way we like it. Let me give it a little more edge strength, so keep coming back and working with these sliders. I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. If we come up here to edges and click the eyeball, we can see the before and the after. So pretty cool, right? I love what the dark edges is doing. I'm really happy with that. Now let's click on the edges layer again. And let's come to the edge resolution. Let's move that to the left and see what happens. Okay, it's changing the resolution a little bit, not quite as defined, but maybe right around there looks really cool. I like it. It's very artistic looking. And don't forget, we also have this opacity slider, so we can move this back and, just fine tune it a little bit. So let's look at the before. Let's come up to this eyeball on the edges layer. There's the before and there's the after. Dark edges. So as you can see, it's really effective here on the abstraction images, or the simplified images. So let's come back here to edges. Let's reset it. And now let me show you on the light mode. The first thing I want to do is come to the edge type and go back to Monochrome Edge. So click that on. And now we're going to look at the light. So let's click on light. And remember, when we're on dark, we're in multiply blend mode. When we're on light, it goes to screen blend mode. So that's important. But just keep that in the back of your mind. And so now let's take the edge strength and move it to the right. Now it's going to put light lines around our edges, and you can see that, and boy, that looks nice. That's a nice look too. It's a whole different kind of a look. And let's play with our edge thickness. Let's see what we got here. So we can bump it up or down. Again, I'm not going to go too high here, probably around 0.12, somewhere in that area, 0.9 actually. And now let's go to our Simplify Edge and start moving that to the right to simplify the edge a little bit, and just be slow and careful there. And let's say maybe right around in there. I might pull my edge thickness back more. Maybe right around there. And let's take our suppress weak edges and adjust that. So we can move it to the right. We'll suppress the weak edges, move it back just to get a point where you think it looks good. And I'm actually liking it maybe right around in there. And let's do our suppress small edges. And maybe right around there. And don't forget, you can use a layer mask just to paint in certain parts of the image. If you don't like it everywhere, you can invert your layer mask and just paint it where you like it. So remember that as well. And let's go to our opacity and pull this the whole way off, and then just slowly move it back up to the right and just add it into where we think it looks nice. And I'm thinking maybe right around there, around 73%. And one last thing, let's not forget this edge resolution. Let's move that to the left a little bit and see what we get here. Okay, just play with a little bit. Maybe right around there. Now let's come up to this eyeball on the edges layer and click that. There's our before, and there's our after the light edges. So I think that looks really nice. What do you think? Well, if you got to this point, you survived the Edge filter tutorial, and thank you for sticking with me this whole way through. As you can see, this Edge's filter is really nice, and it works really nice in conjunction with the abstraction filter on your simplified images, and experiment with it on regular images as well. If you enjoyed this video today, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And also, if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and click the bell notification icon. This way you'll be informed of all the new training videos that I'm putting out, and I have a bunch planned. And I will see you all right here next time on The Joy of Editing with yours truly, Dave Kelly. So long.